Welcome to the B2B Sales Meetup. Thanks for the introduction, Mark. My name is Gunnar. I'm Senior Partner and Alliance Manager here at Hootsuite. Partners and alliances for Hootsuite means those companies who are either reselling or referring the leading social media management platform, or who are part of the ecosystem like the social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and so on. I would like to cover today the topic of social selling, which, let's face it, could be also called social engagement, because we don't necessarily sell directly on LinkedIn. Very often, this is handled in relation to enterprise sales people, like many of you are on the call, selling directly to end customers. I would like to talk about how can we have the partners in between as well covered with social selling activities. So first of all, a learning that we have done together with Forrester Group about 2 years ago, there was said that about 77% of all B2B enterprises either already have or plan to very soon have a program in regards to social selling for their sales and marketing efforts. By today, 2 years later, I would say it's rather already far above 80%. This is not necessarily affected in small businesses, where many of our partners who are selling or referring IT solutions are active. So how can we get the partners included into social selling? In my view, we should first look at a good definition. So from Hootsuite point of view, social selling is a set of social media activities conducted by educated and enabled sales teams that creates meaningful moments to build and nurture relationships. This comprised sentence has a lot in it. And of course, it's all about education, it's about enablement, sales team more than marketing, but it's all about nurture relationships. It's not about sales activities in the first place, but it is a way how you can turn conversations that start either online or even offline, but how you can turn those conversations into the offline world. How can you ensure that you can have this know, like, and trust factor supported by social media? We all know one number. Out of the Challenger Sale book, which has been published 2011, it was already clear that the future buyer is looking at 57% of his buying journey, don't call it sales cycle, looking into contacting a provider or a vendor, 57%. Today, 9 years later, it's rather in the 80 to 85%. So this means potential customers are researching, not just about facts, but also about the people that they would like to work with. So when we take this particular topic as well and look into this journey from identifying needs and how for first time the customer has an idea of there's something that needs to be solved, into the real success, which for me is described as the customer is renewing after the initial transformation has been done and his continuation on the services side. And all over these 5 steps, we have various engagements where social selling actually can help. So for the first one, in the awareness side, it's about driving brand awareness as a company, but also in terms of the people. Who are those professionals who have answers to the challenges of the client, prospective client? In the evaluation part, that's about the social listening, where the vendors or providers should find out what is actually being researched on the market and how can an offering or these services or educational content be related into those activities that the social listening can uncover. Then the middle section, the selection part, that is where typically providers are acquiring customers, let's say where they match the supply and demand, and that is where revenue can be driven, supported by social. We don't necessarily pitch and we don't sell transactional products, but social media activities, thought leadership can help to advance and to find the right contacts within a complex sale. The engagement part, though, is already moving from the new business sales professionals into those who are implementing or those who are further handling the client when it comes to customer success, as we define it in the software business. And here it's all about maintaining the relationships, and that's a perfect space where, of course, social selling activities can help a lot, because it's about educating with content, sharing similar customer success stories to ensure that the current client is on track, on their way to their transformation. And at the end, who is the best advocate for a solution? Those who just achieved the transformation, they got an outcome which is showing that positive return on investment that they've been looking into, or even better. So sustainability is key, and that of course helps to reduce churn and to upsell into further possibilities and successful renewals. There's one thing missing. Here we talk about a vendor provider towards prospective and final existing clients. But where's the channel partner? In about 70% of all cases, when we talk about IT in Australia and New Zealand, the sales are happening between vendors, partners, and end customers. So that's quite a lot. So let's look what type of partners we have. In my view, I call it triple win, because we have on one side the partner who's in the middle between a provider and the end customer. So therefore, when we all can win, that's a perfect solution. And on the other side, when we have vendors who have answers to a problem, and we have a customer who has this problem itself or the challenge, very often those two don't know each other. It is a partner to put the glue together. So therefore, what type of partners might exist there? Long time in the channel, we have seen that it's all about selling from vendor further into clients via channel partners. As an example, many of the large IT vendors, they have sophisticated programs in various disciplines in Olympic fashion, like a silver partner, gold partner, platinum partner. But it's not only about this one-way street. A nice partnership can also be on a mutual way. So therefore, we have, from Hootsuite point of view, we have those which are reselling in both directions, which are referring in both directions, and also ecosystem partners where their solutions is not about reselling and referring, but are really part of the system. As an example, if you need a social listening solution combining with your social media activities like planning and sharing content, it's all coming together in the Hootsuite dashboard. It all looks similar. So then for the end customer, for the user, it's a seamless experience. And that makes the whole ecosystem wonderful. You might wonder, what is the question mark in the middle? Would that be the vendor? No. That's all about solving customer challenges. But how can providers know the challenges when they're not in this ecosystem well established? Here's where social selling activities indeed can help a lot. We have done an earlier survey within the community of this B2B sales meetup, and I found out that about maybe 2/3 of all participants that we asked, they are selling mostly direct, but 1/3 sells indirect. While we know what I earlier mentioned, that in Australia, normally it's even up to 70%. So, and then we have those vendors who have account managers talking to end customer, but it's fulfilled via the partner. So this means overall, partners play a crucial role, and that can be the traditional reseller, that can be system integrators who put all these things together like complicated software solutions, implement this in conjunction with existing IT infrastructure, which can be hybrid cloud or whatever way. So we have system integrators, we have value-added resellers who normally put one-on-one together, that is larger than two. Then we have distributors, particularly from the volume point of view. We have managed service providers. They think rather in a month-to-month base. And how can they help their clients for a monthly fee to run all of their IT, typically in the small medium space. And finally, we also have consultancies. Those know the topics like business continuity, crisis management, whatever subject matter expertise is needed. They talk to the line of business managers at their clients with that external expertise which is needed for customers to drive their way on the digital transformation. So how can we implement social selling activities, including the partners? And here are a couple of suggestions in my presentation. First of all, partners can be great advocates for different solutions, not necessarily to pitch and to sell it through, but how to combine their expertise and consultancy together with the product and solution of vendors to achieve an outcome for the end customer. That starts with the right knowledge and expertise to showcase this. And some vendors have programs also for their advocacy solutions. So here's an example of Hootsuite Amplify. That means that those customers who use this solution have their employees easily share content, not only the solutions of their particular company, but also industry knowledge in a very well curated way. So one approach would be to ensure that a vendor who has a program like this one in place can have partner-related activities, partner-related services also included into this topic. On Hootsuite side, we use Amplify ourselves, and we don't only talk about the new features of Hootsuite. We also talk about what our partners are doing. In particular, when there are new topics coming, like Facebook had their marketplace, Instagram had changes on the algorithm, LinkedIn added stories. This is all what we also share on this platform and has nothing to do with pitching Hootsuite as such, but it shows to the person sharing on social media that they have quite good knowledge, and they can also then personalize this and show what's going on. So this means in advocacy solutions like this one, it is very wise not to think about just in straight offering what the provider can do, but also add what the partners are doing, what they're talking about. And for the larger partners, and we have many of them in Australia and New Zealand, which are on both sides of the Tasman, that makes even sense to operate a solution like this, where the partner has the chance to talk about the subject matter expertise from the industry and combine it together with offerings or case studies from the vendors. So let's include partners in these type of programs. And let me share you a couple of other topics, what is possible on that side. So I would like to support partners with social selling activities. For example, fostering the engagement. For me, it's important that not only the corporate sales teams on larger vendors are ready in talk about social media, but we need to ensure that the typically smaller partners are also included here, that we can encourage them, that we can provide them programs which also foster engagement on social media channels. A typical example would be that the partners should not only do the regular activities for the market development funds or MDF, which very often is not fully used, but rather include programs from vendor side for partners that they can activate and be ready to share social media activities as well. So it can be part of this one, and very often it's not yet the case. We should not forget one thing. The idea of sharing in social media is not necessarily to pitch or to get leads, but to be visible in the market, to get the discussions on, and then to point this content to prospective clients who are coming either from an inbound side or that they're talking to anyway, outbound. The other one is the social selling program. As I mentioned earlier, it's about 77% who at that time already had a program ready or in preparation, but mostly these programs are just from a provider into end customers. It's wise to include also here the partner into these programs and to use topics like gamification there as well. So often IT vendors have programs in place for the last months of a quarter or the last 6 weeks of a half year to ensure that they can hit the target or close the forecasted gaps. There are typically activities which are resulted in some kind of funding and then a pay-for-result type of payment for this one. So let's include social media activities here as well. Let's not only put direct messaging to end customer, but include social media, because that is a way how customers who are researching for solutions can better find it based on educational content instead of an offer of 10% off a price. The next one would be listening. I mentioned social listening activities, which typically should come before writing content. We should know what to write about. So then we can include the partners here as well. I'm personally curious to find out on certain topics. Let's say we have a vendor in the cybersecurity space and they do a lot of research, but it would be so great to include their channel partners into the social listening components to find out, as they typically are closer to their end customers, or to get this type of information there as well. So here it's possible for social listening to also drive strategic activities from the listening side and to convert that further. And the listening can also be combined with user-generated content, or UGC. What we know is 96% of this is not branded at all. That's where we can see what's really going on. In a normal private way, I would say this is something like a TripAdvisor, where you have review sites. And there's different solutions where you can add this user-generated content, combining with your social listening activities. And the partner is typically one step closer to the end customer as their advisor. The next one is to mention employee advocacy program. Here it would be possible to also include partners into this, that partners can provide content into the vendor's ecosystem of an employee advocacy program. So that's what we do on Hootsuite as well, so that then our partners, they have content ready and available to show where the social media area is going to, that our colleagues are posting about this and can be perceived as subject matter experts in regards to social media. Employee advocacy programs often also come with gamification inside. That is an interesting approach as well, which can be further expanded into the partner side as well, because that really drives, as typical for salespeople, a higher adoption. You can put it into quarterly or type of incentives to ensure that the technology is used. And there are great examples that is not just stopping in sharing content. So we have, for example, one hotel chain who used the employee advocacy from us in Europe, and what they have been doing, they achieved with 61,000 posts within 1 year of all the employees. They achieved 124 million impressions. That sounds great, but it was possible to associate revenue coming from this sharing of direct hotel bookings, which otherwise would not be there. And the return on investment for this program is great and high. On the other side, my view here also, let's create some reverse activities. Let's take it rather the other way around. Let's say we plan a certain outcome by end of this year from a vendor side. What I would like to achieve then in terms of numbers, in terms of the amount of customers and the size of their solution that they provide or that they acquire, how can I add partners inside the whole ecosystem and then drive it backwards to define which activities on social media are needed now, including the partners, so that we can have warm marketing towards the prospective end clients. So it's not just we post and look where it goes, but rather take it from a reverse engineering point of view, and let's go define the target, put all the activities in place, put milestones in place, and ensure that a selected group of partners, instead of just reselling, they would include it here also in social media activities, in sharing their content, engage on this with their prospective clients, have a program available that also provider and partner professionals are further changing their content and elevating this, so that these conversations are then turning into conversion. So that is all what social selling is about. It's not selling about in the internet, but it's all about turning conversations into closed business. And that is exactly where the channel partners can contribute in a much higher way than before when we include them into our social selling activities. So this is what I would like to share. Looking forward to get some questions in the Q&A session. Otherwise, please send me an email to the email address here below. Thank you very much for watching.